All right, we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back for another one, guys. Here, day number 3 of the Indianapolis Colts training camp. Colts practice today, Sunday at 4 p.m., and there was a lot to take away from today's practice. So we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But before we do that, just want to let you guys know this episode is presented by Prize Picks. Be sure to hop over to prizepicks.com today and use their mobile app. And when you sign up, use the code BTJ for a $100 deposit match. All right, Derek. So like I said, there was a lot that happened in today's practice. Now, obviously, Colts not yet in pads. That will be happening this next week. But the Colts 2 straight practice, the first time they've done that this year for training camp in practice number 3. So here are some things, Derek, some takeaways that were had from day 3 of training camp. The first thing I got to talk about when it comes to some injuries. So on Saturday's practice, there was 2 players that did not practice for the Colts. One of them non-injury related with Joe Flacco. He went to the funeral, I believe, of a former teammate, Jacoby Jones.
Yep.
But he was back today. And then Braden Smith was the big one, Derek. And obviously we know Braden Smith had that off-season knee surgery right after, obviously, he dealt with some injuries last year. He had some knee surgery. The Colts were pretty adamant they were going to ease him along into it. They weren't going to force him right back out there. So he missed the first 2 days of practice, but he did come back on day number 3 of practice and in place of Blake Freeland. So that was definitely something that was interesting. And, in the place of him, it's really been Blake Freeland mostly kind of being that swing tackle. Chris Ballard mentioned that as, a position to watch for the Colts is that swing tackle position between him and Matt Gonzalez. So that was one we're definitely going to continue to monitor there when it comes to that. But definitely great to see Braden Smith back out there for the Colts and everything like that. And there were 2 injuries that happened. I don't know if yesterday's injury for Dio Adangbo happened during practice or if it kind of flared up, earlier today. But regardless, he's dealing with a calf injury. He did not practice today. And Samson Ebukam left 11 on 11s with an apparent calf injury as well. So obviously we'll see on the severity of those, but hopefully the Colts are just being precautionary. I mean, at the end of the day, Derek, it's still very early into training camp. You don't want to risk anything to potentially make it worse. So what are your thoughts kind of overall when it comes to the injuries from the guys the Colts got back and maybe a couple guys who are going to be on the mend for who knows how long?
Yeah, having to deal with Ebukam and Odangbo both having some injuries right now definitely sucks. Especially for, Ebukam, we want to try to have him, build upon what he was doing last year. And of course, when it comes to Odangbo, I mean, this is his year to really shine. And we really don't want him to be having any more injuries. We already saw in his first year as an Indianapolis Colt, he was already having to deal with, I believe it was a Achilles, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been an ACL or Achilles. Can't remember, but either way, had a season-ending injury on that and, wasn't able to play for the majority of his first year. And so it'd be helpful to get him back very soon. And like you said, with Braden Smith now coming back, that's very huge. I know that throughout this year, there's going to be a lot of talk about either Blake Freeland or Matt Gonsalves being able to be that backup right tackle for the immediate future. And, it's obviously good for them to get some reps. I mean, we don't have pads on yet, and it's only been the 3rd day. So I'll take it with a grain of salt. But having Braden Smith back would 100% be a super big thing for the Indianapolis Colts when it comes to the offensive line, because Braden Smith is a very underrated right tackle throughout the league. So very much needed. It's good that at least the Indianapolis Colts haven't had any major hiccups with injuries so far to start this offseason. Ebukam and Odangbo, we'll keep an eye on that, but nevertheless, at least we're not having to deal with a whole bunch of people dropping like flies.
Yeah, and again, Steichen didn't really clarify, at least from what we've heard, on the severity of that. So hopefully the Colts are just being precautionary with these guys. Ebukam was carted off, and he was in a great deal of pain. So you're just hopeful that it wasn't anything serious and you avoided a major injury. So I'm hoping that that's the case, but Derek, I think that just points back to the importance of having very deep defensive lines, really lines in general, is to have guys that can step in. And it was Taekwon Lewis who stepped in the place of Ebukam today. So we'll have to see that. And obviously, you can't evaluate fully when it comes to, not having full pads on, especially with these offensive and defensive lines. But uh, moving on to some of the things from today's practice that happened. So, really, it felt like on Saturday, Derek, the defense, especially that defensive line, really was tearing it up. They won the day. They got the best of the offensive line that day. Definitely felt like the offense kind of found its level like a little bit more when it came to Sunday's practice. The offensive line, they didn't have nearly as big of protection issues. The flags weren't nearly as big of a thing when it comes to that. And Anthony Richardson looked good again. He was 11 of 16. He had completions to Josh Downs, Kylan Granson, Will Mallory, Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, A.D. Mitchell, and Michael Pittman, Ogletree, and Jelani Woods. So he was just cooking it today, man. It feels like Anthony Richardson has really, really been finding his own as of recent. And he has just continued to play at a very high level. I mean, today was his worst day in terms of, through the interception to Julian Blackman in those 11 on 11 drills. But Derek, so far through practice, even though AR's had a few, overthrows when it comes to individual times and stuff like that, when it's mattered against the defense, Anthony Richardson has looked very good. And I know it's still early in training camp, but I mean, definitely a guy that doesn't appear to have much rust at all, which is definitely a great thing. So talk to me about what you've kind of heard from this offense and what your thoughts are on kind of AR and where he's at right now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Summer's here, so that means NBA, football, all those types of stuff. It's not the here right now. So we got the MLB and the WNBA to pass the time. I haven't really gotten a whole lot into the WNBA as of recently, but have had a couple things here. A lot of Asia Wilson props here that are really good that I'm very interested in making. So I would definitely keep an eye out for any of those. Shohei Ohtani for MLB props. Highly suggest you guys hit that over when it comes to Ohtani, when it comes to total bases. Anytime you can get a chance to get Ohtani, especially even with just a 1.5 or 2 total bases, definitely want to try and take advantage of those. Because all it takes is one good hit from Shohei Ohtani to get you above that number. So definitely would encourage you guys do that. Be sure to download the app today and use code BTJ for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code BTJ for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, it's sponsored by Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Yeah, obviously day 3, there's still going to be some things that need to work out, and obviously there's no pads right now, so it definitely favors the offense when it comes to this. But like you said, this is a guy that's coming off of a shoulder injury. You didn't know how he was going to look this year, and with the offense of line having a Braden Smith just now coming back, and supposedly the defensive line has really been doing a lot of great things throughout so far of these practices. You did wonder how Anthony Richardson was going to respond to all of this. And I mean, you said it, some of the overthrows, guys, we're going to still have to deal with that. Anthony Richardson is still not a finished product yet. It's probably going to take another year or 2 before we stop seeing a lot of those overthrows that we're seeing now, because it's going to take a little bit. But I think what's great, Cody, is, I mean, I know it's only the first 3 days, Cody. and we'll talk about this in another video, I'm sure, but what what were we noticing in the first couple practices last year versus what we are right now? It is abundantly clear that Anthony Richardson is a lot more accurate right now than what he was at this time last year. Last year, he was barely completing 50% of his passes on all these team drills. Now with this, so far in this, I'll have to try and pull it up here. I think he said so far for Kevin Bowen, he said in team drills through 3 days of camp, 19 of 25, which is almost 80%, which is amazing. That is a quarterback that clearly knows where he's going with the football, clearly is understanding the offense, clearly is understanding where his weaknesses and strengths are, and is getting the ball accurately to his players. Again, I understand we're at that time of training camp where it does drastically help the offense because there's no real contact being displayed amongst the wide receivers and the corners. I get that. But that's what you want to be seeing from Anthony Richardson, is someone that is making those throws the way that you're supposed to. So he's doing exactly what it is that we've asked him to. In the red zone drills, I hear he's been like lighting it up in the red zone, which I told people was going to start happening. So far, through the first 3 days of camp, really liking what I'm seeing from Anthony Richardson. It's a great trend in the right direction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he has been, there was multiple days, Derek, on the 11 on 11s where Anthony Richardson was perfect, right? He was 100% completion percentage, which is crazy. Had some big throws to guys like Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell. And by the way, A.D. Mitchell had a really good, really good day today. He's not been like, I wouldn't say he's been non-existent, but he's been a little quiet so far through the first couple of days of training camp. And A.D. Mitchell really like lit it up. I don't know if you saw that highlight, Derek, of A.D. Mitchell making that catch. It was crazy. I don't even know how to explain it. I believe he was going up against Jalen Jones, I'm pretty sure. But he made this crazy catch where his helmet fell off and he hung on to it through the contact. And I mean, this dude, like, you're starting to see the freakish ability of A.D. Mitchell. Like, holy cow. So really excited for him, just kind of what he's going to continue to do when it comes to just him as a wide receiver, because we know, Derek, he has what it takes to be very special in this league. And that's what everybody was talking about, right? So really awesome to see. I believe it was Dallas Flowers in coverage, but he made a crazy catch and then he like amped up the crowd. He was feeling it, man. So him and Josh Downs, I feel like recently have made some really, really good catches. And Josh Downs, the first couple of days, has been lighting it up. I mean, Jim Bob Cooter yesterday was just talking. He was just glowing about Josh Downs and his ability and what he's going to do and how special this kid's going to be in year number 2. So I really am excited about what this wide receiver core can become, because, Derek, the potential for this group, it's through the roof right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome to see. It's great to see the offense putting it together. And if that's any indication of what we have to look forward to, then that just makes me feel so much better about going into this year, because we're going to need that offense.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more things of note, Derek. Jim Irsay back at Grand Park today for his first appearance, obviously, since all the health stuff's been going on. I think the first time since the 2023 season. So it's been it's great to see, obviously, Boss Man being back and actually at camp, and great to see that he is in better health than he has been. And so hopefully he continues to mend and whatever he needs to do. But definitely a positive sign, Derek, to see Jim Irsay out there. We know his love for the Colts and love for the fans. So glad to see him back there and seems to be in high spirits. So definitely love that. Couple more things when it comes to it. Will Mallory, they talked about, had a couple nice catches today. Obviously, we talked about him as a potential guy, competing for tight end 2, potentially tight end 3. We'll see kind of when it comes to Will Mallory, but he had a pretty strong day. And I think really overall, Derek, when you look at this Colts team, here was some of the offense for people who were curious how the offensive starters were laid out today. Obviously, you had Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Kylan Granson, Mo Alley Cox, Bernard Ryman, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. And then even though Braden Smith did return, Blake Freeland was still at right tackle. Like I said, the Colts are going to just ease him back in there. So nothing too crazy there. And then on the defensive side of things, you had Ebukam, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, Zaire Franklin, EJ Speed, Kenny Moore, Juju Brents, Jalen Jones, Blackman, and Nick Cross. So Derek, that's kind of what the Colts offense and defense looks like right now, obviously subject to change. But that's what it looks like right now. And, some of the injuries I talked about, the couple guys on the defensive line, and then Raekwon Davis still obviously dealing with that high blood pressure. So hopefully he gets back sooner rather than later. And then I think Chris Lamons as well has been dealing with an ankle thing. So overall, though, still fairly relatively healthy for the Colts. And hopefully the two defensive linemen can get back sooner rather than later. But the Colts need to hold them out for a while. Like, I'm totally understanding of that because, these two guys are vets. I have no doubt that when they get back, they'll be just fine. So we'll see on that. But, Derek, any other thoughts from something maybe I didn't cover in training camp that you saw, or anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this thing up?
No, like you said, changes are going to come for the some of these guys for sure. We haven't gotten a full chance to see everyone do a lot of things yet. It has been nice to see the defense creating a few more turnovers as of recently. Carlisle and Blackman both having back-to-back really good days. So really awesome to see that from a defensive side. But other than that, offense has been the main show so far throughout this whole training camp. And we will see what happens when the pads actually get put on.
Exactly. And pads come on Tuesday for those who are curious. Derek, it's going to be really interesting to see because you're like, on one hand, I'm excited that AR is being so accurate, but also it's like, oh boy, is this secondary about to be completely exposed? That's kind of the tension you always feel when one unit's doing well. You're like, does that mean that unit's just really good? Or does that mean the other unit's just really bad? So I guess we're going to have to see on that. Obviously, we're going to know a lot more when the pads come on Tuesday, but we will see when it comes to that. But that's what happened, really, guys. Oh, by the way, Michael Pittman got into a scrap with Jalen Jones. Not shocked at all by that. Pittman, it seems like it's like a yearly thing at this point. Pittman gets into a fight with somebody during camp. He's a menace, man, when it comes to camp. Michael Pittman every year gets into some sort of scrap. But everybody was fine, so that's good. But I think that's it, guys, for day number 3 of training camp. Let us know your thoughts on training camp for the Colts so far. We're going to be back at camp. Unfortunately, we're not able to be up there on next Sunday, but we're going to be back there on that Friday. So if anybody's out there, I believe it's August 9th, Derek, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, August 9th, I think.
August 9th, we're going to be out there for our final training camp practice. Obviously, I was able to be out there yesterday. I was able to talk with Juju Brents and just kind of be on the field and things like that. So if you guys haven't yet, be sure to go check out that interview. But other than that, guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff, so that you are in the loop when we drop fresh content. That'll do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much. And as always, go Colts.